All right, it is the Easthampton Affordable and Fair Housing Partnership. It is Thursday, April 22nd, and it is 6:04 p.m. Welcome, everyone. Okay, so do you have the agenda open, Jamie? Because I do not.
Yes. First is approval of the minutes from March.
All right, did everybody have a chance to look at Jackie's minutes from March?
Very good. Very well done.
Anybody have any?
Every word, I just looked at it and I parsed. No, it was fine.
Does anybody have any edits or changes? All right.
Would you like me to make a motion to accept the minutes of the March meeting? I will make that motion. We need a second. Okay.
All right, I will do a roll call. Jackie.
Yes.
Kate.
Aye.
Yes, Jackie,
Brad.
I'm having a very hard time paying attention to you because you look so official with the background.
I know. Are you at work or you're just at home with an official background?
I've been on Zoom all day with multiple students, and this is my preferred background to my messy house.
I dig it.
All right, Kate, were you a yes?
I approve of that. Yeah.
Brad.
I'm going to abstain because I wasn't here.
And I am Jana, and I'm a yes. Great, thank you. Okay, next on the agenda, I think, is Jane and Donna, who I know can't be here. And I did forward, I think, everybody the email from Donna that she sent me. Yes, okay, I did forward it. Okay, great.
Okay.
So Jane, take it away.
You got it. So last year, before COVID was in our lives, Valley had planned to come to Easthampton to start this discussion about us requesting CPA funds, getting some feedback from the committee, because we feel that the need is certainly there in Easthampton to help first-time home buyers, and now homeowners for foreclosure prevention reason, and even renters who might someday become first-time home buyers, but even just to keep renters in stable housing. So our plan before COVID was to come to you, and then when COVID happened, and of course there was a transition in leadership at Valley as well. So we're coming this year, and we've really done some thinking about how we think we can maximize the use of these funds to reach out to folks in Easthampton or people who want to live in Easthampton, and make some funds available for the counseling and preparation for first-time home buyers and some down payment assistance. So we put together a proposal that includes what we believe that's going to look like in terms of outreach and in terms of locating potential clients and home buyers, and a budget. And what we feel, Donna and I, from our conversations, just feel like, for purposes of the conversation with the committee, one of the things we've noticed is working with CDBG funds where we're limited to an 80% AMI income limit. It's very, very hard to find qualified buyers who can afford the homes in the area. So that's why we're really gearing the proposal to be for moderate income folks at 100% AMI, and giving a decent enough down payment assistance loan. And one of the items up for discussion is grant versus loan versus recapturable loan, or forgivable loan, I should say. We feel that if we can reach out to those folks, we can really successfully get some low income and moderate income folks into housing. So our proposal is let me pull up, should I share the screen or should I not? Do you all have a preference?
I made you a co-host, so you're welcome to share. I think it'd be helpful for everyone to see it.
Okay, great. So I will just, I'll pull up the draft, and what I'm going to pull up is what I think a good illustration. So what we've outlined, let me get this easier for you all to see. So we've outlined our project description, and what we're looking to do is discuss what a good, a solid amount of down payment assistance that would really help these households to be successful in a purchase. But in describing the need for the project, we go through describing the different areas of need, as I just described the 3 categories: either first-time home buyers preparing for that event, homeowners that we want to keep in stable home ownership and avoid foreclosure, do loan modifications, and also take care of repairs in their homes through refinancing or other methods to get those funds, and then also renters. So in the need for the project, we lay out those terms, and we talk about some scenarios where the price points of housing and what it takes for a family to successfully purchase a property in the area. So we have attached some examples, which I will show you in a moment. But I just want to sort of go through this short version of it. So our services would be providing counseling, face-to-face counseling session, and identifying folks through some webinars to invite people to understand the resources that are available, to give people information to help them, and give folks referrals through those webinars. So if nothing else, we're disseminating good information to people, but then hopefully attracting clients who can come in and work with us over the long haul to take the steps that it takes to get towards a purchase or a modification on their a current mortgage. So our counseling services for renters would not be intensive services, but it would be support, advocacy, some negotiations with landlords, and helping folks to access available funding from the resources that are available today, such as the RAF program, the other emergency assistance that's coming through the CARES Act and the American Recovery funds. Our counseling services for first-time home buyers is really the focus of what we'd like to discuss with you all tonight before we proceed with a final proposal. So these counseling services, the description here is just about the debt burden that even at the area median income, at 100% of area median income, we're talking about a family of 4 making $81,000. The types of struggles that Donna is very familiar with our clients in the area, struggling with student debt, credit card debt, certainly their housing costs and utilities, and the difficulty of saving enough to come up with a down payment to purchase a home. So through credit repair and long-term counseling, we would work with these clients to get them positioned to find a home that they can afford and have these tools in their pocket to successfully purchase a place. We talk about here we talk about the experience we have with local lending instruments and first-time mortgage programs that help our clients. And I'm just scanning down because I want to get to this sort of illustration at a high level, which is describing if we were to work with a client, and if we're going to assume that people are having a tough time saving money, and a program like down payment assistance would help them, this would be a typical scenario in the products that we work with, where a home price we kind of backed into a home price of $317,000 based on an income at this level. There would be a required 3% down payment. There would be closing costs. We're averaging that at about 4%, I believe. So we have a total cash to close, and what we're proposing is a range of $20,000 to $25,000. We really feel that's necessary to help someone succeed in purchasing a home, because we don't want them to drain their savings entirely. And at the same time, we want to make sure that we are creating a loan agreement that will encourage people to stay by making it a repayable loan at least up to a certain point. So we're not saying that this would be automatically forgivable, But we do think that the conversation is a good one to have about whether we can help people to build some wealth and some equity if they stay in their home for a long time. So in this scenario, if we were to give $20,000, they would still need to come up with $5,300 to close on this purchase. And so that's where the question really comes up. Would we want to help folks keep some money in their pocket? But we certainly want people to bring something to the table, but then structuring an agreement as we proceed with this that would be a good steward of the CPA funds and also help folks to build some equity. So that's the essence of what we've proposed. And I think that those are the two kind of main points that we feel like are worthy of some discussion with this committee are, what would be the right down payment size? Could we have some flexibility with that on a case-by-case basis? That might be a percentage or something related to a match that a client would bring in. And then also the nature of the loan that we would put on these purchases in terms of a time frame that people could either we would need to restrict sales at an affordable level for future affordable buyers, or create some formula for building some equity if folks stay in their place for a while. So then the other piece I just wanted to show you that we for current homeowners, I think that the main thing here, we are talking to the local banks about really joining forces to come up with a good curriculum that gives folks really good resources around foreclosure prevention, acting early. We're already hearing from some folks who are going to be in trouble very soon and have been able to hold off from the next steps with the foreclosure moratorium, but we're really going to have some folks in need. And so having good resources, having the local banks on board, having some of the big banks on board as needed, and programs that first-time home buyers have been using, we just want to make sure that we've got available good sound advice to help people take action and hopefully stay in their home, hopefully find a negotiation or a modification that allows them to stay. But if not, helping folks to find a soft landing, if that even means either downsizing or going to rental. So those would be referral services and similar counseling services to just get to a decision about the right move for each family. We expect to serve 45 households. These folks would come in and will also have the benefit of our first-time home buyer workshop series for those who are pursuing that, or our post-purchase education workshops, which we do twice a year. Our first-time home buyer workshops we do once a year. And we would do outreach and marketing through promoting those webinars and promoting the program itself. And then our goals would be to accomplish case-specific goals for each family, and then be able to help at least 4 homeowners accomplish a purchase with some down payment assistance. This is an 18-month contract that we're proposing. We think that that allows us enough time to really work with folks over the long haul and not have to come back to you as often. I don't know, you might require an 18-month term as well. I might be missing that piece. So this is how we've laid out some of those goals. And then I just wanted to show you real quick that this is some recent MLS data. And what we're seeing is that there are some places, as Donna is familiar with these places in the 200s, these places need to have you need to have cash in hand to usually do some repairs and maintenance or upgrades. But you can also see in some cases that these lower prices go for $20,000, $15,000 more than the list price. So you are seeing some competitive bidding. We all know that about the market, but we just wanted to show you an example of some of the listings that are out there right now and the types of places. Many of these are sold, but then as we come down to these other pages, you see some that are under agreement. So this gives you some sense of some comps, but,
We can't see the comp. We can't see that page, Jan. But
oh,
that's-
I'm sorry. I must not have shared my screen. One sec.
As a tip too, I'm looking at it from the email. So then I
Ah.
can guide my own thing, just as a thing if someone wants to.
Great. I feel like I said a whole lot there, so I want to pause and ask if there's any questions, but I will pull up these prices here.
I just have a real quick question. I don't want to interrupt you about the renting service. I don't know. Did we ask for you to include the rental counseling service, or just where did that come from? That's just part of.
I think it came from really just understanding that the impact of the pandemic is going to lead folks to needing, we don't want to turn people away. What we're looking for is sort of the Northampton model of the resiliency hub that they're working with. You know, we just want to make sure that we've got really good, reliable referrals. We're not handing someone a card and saying, here, good luck, but that, you know, Donna can work with them enough to make sure that they connect with someone who can help them. And she will help them if it's within, we're not suggesting any direct assistance there, but we just make sure that we get them connected with the right folks.
And there's no extra, that's just part of the proposal. We don't pay an extra fee. It's just a nicer model. Fabulous.
That's correct. That's correct. I will pull up this just to show you some of these examples of the listings. So these are listed in order of the list price and then the sale price when a sale has happened. So they're either sold or under agreement. But what I was saying is that in this range of prices, you know, depending on the size of the home, what Donna sees there is just that these are very much real fixer-uppers. Like you have to have cash in hand to really get these into livable condition in many cases, or soon would need that. So the last thing we want to do is put people in a house that we're not going to be able to maintain. I think that we've got 2 pages of listings that we included in the proposal. And the average list price is $305,000. That is the average in Easthampton according to MLS. It's a little lower than what they're saying the average is in Hampshire County, was a little higher than that. But.
Sorry, can I ask one, I guess I wasn't paying enough attention question. What was I can't find it in the proposal. What's the outreach part? The advertising?
Yeah, so we didn't get very specific there. Where we're sitting right now is that we're really coming to understand that outreach for a lot of clients that we have typically, you know, typically the clients that come who are LMI and end up at Valley or area service providers of different types, comes through word of mouth, very much, you know, paper flyering, a lot of human contact is what gets people to us for help. And so we've got a digital divide. We do feel like we are reaching many folks through our social media, and we've been ramping that up and really making the connections happen with a lot of our partners and communities in the area. But we really think that there's a need for, and I don't think we were specific yet in this draft about the plan here. What we're pursuing is not so much trying to reach more people through our social media channels, but getting a Google grant for nonprofits that helps people to find you. So it's about getting the search terms, the search words out there so that people easily land on our page and are able to connect with us. But we would do constant contacts is one of our outreach methods, through our partners, certainly, municipalities, certainly, and through the webinars, hopefully attracting people to the resources that we have available.
Okay. I'm going to ask one and then I'll let, it looks like, actually, Jana, do you want to ask first?
No, go ahead. Go ahead.
I just wanted to know, in terms of the outreach, if you guys have any kind of, and Brad and Jana could update this too. Part of the background on this too is I think the last time we did this proposal, we got no one using our money, right? So part of this is we want to actually get people using our money.
Right.
But one of the questions that I have too is how outreach or if there's how we can make this equitable in terms of really trying to reach folks who are marginalized, specifically BIPOC folks. And I, as I was looking at you, I was also kind of thinking about some of the properties Valley CDC owns, and if there could be any kind of marketing towards folks who, basically folks in particularly your tax credits or some of those that really could fall in with. They probably wouldn't be 100%. They're more like 80 or sometimes 60. But
yeah, and Donna's done some of that in the past, and we have looked at doing that. Now we've got much better access, I think, than we've had in some past years, where not only at Valley's properties, but at market rate apartment properties, where we can create mailing lists. She's pretty crafty, Donna. We can create mailing lists by getting into a lobby and taking a shot of apartment numbers. So I think that's exactly right, that more targeted mailings and outreach is going to be the issue. I think that is the challenge, is just finding this band of folks who are both income eligible, ready to take the steps that it takes to make a purchase happen.
Well, and you have access to all those folks in the first time homebuyer classes that are super popular that you all
Right.
offer. So,
and our attendance there has really increased. That has been more of an opportunity than a loss during COVID. We've had double, if not triple sometimes, the attendance we used to have at the first time homebuyer webinars. I think that the community engagement piece is really big right now, that there is a lot of outreach and conversation happening. There's funding coming to help not only development of affordable housing, but really the conversations that are happening in Western Mass are very exciting. That I think we're really, one of the things that we've talked about is the CDCs in Western Mass really getting to a good unified regional presence, that we're, just like I was saying, sharing the referrals to get people to the place they need to be based on where they live or where they're looking to buy. And the MACDC folks are really excited about really creating a tool to help us do that, but that will also be boosted by having an online presence that allows folks to find the local resources that are here. So, I think it'll take a little bit of time to get that going, but I think it's well within our reach right now.
Jane, I just had a question about, I know previously Valley's had some CPA money for down payment assistance. So is that money spent? Yeah, so we've all.
No, we've got some left for Pelham. We're working with some for Pelham. Do you mean from Easthampton or?
Yeah, for Easthampton.
No, that I think it's been a little while since we had CPA funds, and so we do not have anything left unspent with Easthampton.
The last project, I want to say, it was like 2015.
Was it that long ago?
And it was, I want to say it was like $5,000 or $6,000 loans.
Right, it was much less. I remember that, yeah.
And I remember we blasted through 2 or 3, maybe even 4 really quickly. And the last 2 first-time homebuyer grants just took forever. The market started to get really hot, and the $5,000 just wasn't enough for to make up the difference between what the housing costs were and like the bidding wars and so I would but that we did finally finish that program, and so there's nothing left with
Okay.
And I think that really is why it's like it's a bold and I think courageous move to offer down payment assistance at this level, but I think it's what it takes to be effective. And I will tell you that sometimes the obstacles come up where either an agent you know, that you can have issues with your agent, but certainly with your lender of wanting to bother with this type of funds. So if you're really bringing more to the table, it makes it more attractive for people. It allows people to make stronger offers.
Yeah, I mean, I think that certainly like the housing issue is on everybody's mind. So I think city council, CPA, I mean, everybody's talking about this. So I think that coming in with saying, you know, we need 20 to 25,000 in order to really make it happen rather than 5, I don't think anyone is going to argue with that, because I think everyone knows that, you know, I mean, I watch houses on my street sell within days for way more than you think that they would sell for. What's the total budget? I didn't see that.
Okay, let me.
Yeah, I don't think it's included in the.
It is not
in what
included?
Jana sent us. No.
Yeah, it says see attached, but I don't think it was attached.
Oh, okay, let me pull it up then. Give me 1 second and then I'll be able to share it with you.
Jana, while Jane is pulling this up, can you just give us a sense of the political landscape? So basically, is the context of this, Jane, you're looking for feedback to make this more appealing to the CPA?
That's
we're going to
correct.
go to the CPA meeting to support it.
That's correct. I really appreciate that question and any insights and thoughts you all have to share.
Well, that's why I asked about the budget, and I because, and you know, Jackie will remember this. So there's been previous CPAs and previous city councils where the conversation about paying for staff time was a huge hurdle. And so, and I'm not, and the landscape in Easthampton has changed dramatically, you know, politically in terms of who's on some of these committees and what they kind of understand. But I do think that for Valley, it's important to sort of talk about, you know, why paying for staff time and not like how nonprofits work and how paying for staff time works, because I think for some folks it's confusing that, you know, oh, well, Donna already works for you, so why are we paying for her staff time? Because she's already a staff person. So kind of, you know, that's why I wondered what the number was, because I do think that, you know, we can help support that, but it's sometimes in the past has been confusing for on people to understand like why you would need staff support. And also I think the other thing is like making the case of like, what happens if you don't get this money? You know, does that mean you work less in Easthampton? Or just sort of like helping people understand how nonprofit budgets work, and that it's really like a puzzle, and, you know, getting this money means you don't have to ask someone else for money. Like sometimes, you know, not everyone understands that. So.
Okay, great. No, that's great, Jana. Thank you. And
Jackie and I have been through very painful conversations where that's been very difficult for people to understand before.
Well, and I know that's it's a very, it's germane and common for folks to talk about, you know, if you give grants to nonprofits, they just use it to pay for their staff.
Right.
You know, I mean, that is, I get it. And at the same time, we lose money on every single grant that we work on. You know, we know through overtime that doesn't ever get paid, or through paying staff time. And, you know, it just takes that much work to get to the goal. I think that we can spell that out in a way. It's good to hear that, because I think it's good to anticipate that question and spell it in a way that maybe presents, you know, working with one household might take X number of hours just to get them to prepare to go out shopping. And then they take their first time home buyer class, and then X number of hours to get them to a closing.
Right.
You know, that might be a way to equate, to monetize, you know, what the transactions or what the relationships look like.
And even like when you're, you know, like United Way does this, right? Like what's secure and what's pending, right? So like, I have this much in my budget that I know I'm going to get next year. And then I have these 15 things that I've asked for support for. So I think making it clear that like our budget's not secure every year. It's not guaranteed that I'm going to have the money. You know, I have to ask, I have to apply for it. I just think that might be helpful way to frame some of it for, or at least be prepared for those questions, which may not come. I mean, again, it really, things
Yep.
have changed dramatically, I think, in the last 5 to 7 years, but just those are the
Okay.
kinds of questions we used to get.
That's great to hear, but I think that what if is a good one, and the what if about if we don't get this funds, are we going to ignore Easthampton? And of course, the answer is no. We do have Division of Banks money available, which does supplement this work. I mean,
Right.
that's where I think the collaborative aspect of how our funds work together, you know, we have Division of Banks funding that does help to supplement CPA funds to accomplish these goals. So
Right.
I think that'll be a good way to lay that out. And I don't know if this is the format. Can I go ahead and share this budget
Sure.
now so you see the numbers? Great. There we go. So what we've put here is at the top, we do have personnel, staff time.
It's not, we're not seeing it, Jane.
Oh, what is happening? I see. There we go. How about there?
Yes.
Thank you. At the top of the budget, we do have personnel costs. So that's direction and the actual one-on-one counseling, communication and outreach, and then we do include fringe. So the personnel there is totaled, and then we do have other expenses, which do include overhead. To your points, that's something that we can describe about how the combination of our budgets support Valley's operations. And then we have the mortgage subsidy costs here estimated at 20,000. You know, we could do 25,000, we could do 2 budgets so people see both numbers. Then what Donna did here was, I think, a shorthand of what we're talking about, is saying that if we serve 45 households, that's the cost per household based
Okay.
on this, outside of the mortgage subsidy. So we can flesh that out a little bit, but I'll make it a little smaller. So that's what we had prepared so far for a budget. I don't know if there's, I think that an agency budget would be helpful. A program budget and an agency budget, that's what we present when we go for CDBG funds, which is to say this portion, if we were to get this tranche of money, here's how it would fit in with our entire homeownership program and who we're serving in that.
And a dumb nitpicky thing, but it will take you 30 seconds. If you just invert, I wouldn't put personnel first.
Gotcha.
I would put it last. I would put the mortgage subsidy first because it's the most important, the travel and the expenses, and the personnel last because it will actually, even to my eye, I was like, oh, that's the first thing I'm seeing. Like,
Gotcha.
I
Very
just
helpful.
invert it real quick.
Thank you. Yeah.
And I
And-
do
and-
think,
yeah.
and putting it with the program budget, because then you can see like how much it really costs to run the program or a
Yep.
program, and then how, you know, probably small amount of Easthampton money that is contributing to the program. So it really shows that like you're not, you know, that it's a piece of the puzzle. It's not like, you know, you're asking Easthampton to run your whole first time home buyer program, which
That's
is,
right. That's right. Okay, good.
we know, but not everybody else will
That's
understand.
right.
Yeah, and the CPA committee really likes to feel like they're getting a good deal. And one of the ways they do that is by looking at how much the matching amounts are.
Great.
So if you show here the 137,000, well, like maybe just excluding the grant, but if you're just showing like what in the 18-month contract period, what you're also doing, what other towns are contributing for, you know, the counseling programs that you're running that would also take up, what's the 100% time or whatever.
Right, exactly. Okay.
Or
great.
if there were other grants or funds that you were going to use to directly pay into this to like sort of show that it's not just the CPA funds.
That's right. Okay, good. And I think, you know, I don't know how much of an appetite folks have at the level of the CPA group, but one of the things I want to mention to you all, as I referred to in describing this program is we're really thinking that we just need to move away from CDBG and move towards CPA. So then that allows the towns to consider that. Now, I don't know that you all have CDBG earmarked for this use. Not all the towns do. Northampton as a entitlement does, and that's been a long-term relationship with Valley.
Yeah,
But
we've
we
not
are
been
going to go
able-
to CPA at Amherst and Northampton as well.
we've not been able to prioritize social services just because the anytime we start a social service program with block grant funds, then it ends up getting cut the next year when we don't receive funding for it. So rather than having the sort of ups and downs on the funding cycles, we've been prioritizing our block grant funds for other types of projects and programs.
That makes total sense. And I know housing goes under social services, and it's horrible to not be able to maintain continuity.
I'm just going to throw out this other thing that I was getting at a little bit more subtly, but I'll do it more directly. So Amherst just did this really neat community forum around basically the history of racism in Amherst and in the housing market.
Isn't it great?
Yeah, I didn't attend, I was like kind of like in and out. And so I just did want to speak more directly. And I know I just think that it would be helpful to me. I don't know. And I'd like other people's thoughts if this would reduce the possibility of getting CPA funding, but to have something in there about targeting. I mean, that's what I was specifically talking about. Not that we would give necessarily the grants more to folks who identify as BIPOC, but to target in the marketing, because this really is a fabulous opportunity for the community that homeownership wise, I don't know, Jamie, I didn't see it. Anecdotally, it does not feel like a diverse home ownership town. And so this might be a fabulous opportunity if we do get to target our marketing a little bit towards folks. You don't know if someone's BIPOC necessarily, but if you're targeting certain places like Valley CDC owned properties, some of that tax credit stuff. So I just don't know what other people think about that, as well as what Jane, you think about that.
I think it's exactly what we're aiming for across the board. Valley's mission is driven towards that, and we have created a racial equity and justice committee to really focus on, and we're planning to have someone help us with a real market analysis that allows us to get to very focused and casting a wider net, getting to a BIPOC population, just as you're saying, Kate. And I think one of the lovely things that came up the other night in terms of brainstorming is, what if we got Easthampton, Amherst, and Northampton to really join forces in a way that we have a unified message about the programs available, so that we don't have each of the municipalities working on it on their own, but that we have marketing that refers to available resources in the region. If we take that sort of marketing and we go south and we go north of just our center area, we can draw that. We can draw that population and find folks. And that has everything to do with working with our sister organizations, CDCs that are down in Springfield and Holyoke and Chicopee, to find those folks and I think be very proactive in that marketing.
Do we know, is that something that we could potentially utilize the municipal engagement program with CHAPA? Because I know that, Judy had emphasized that we should try to take advantage of that. And I don't know that it counts, but this feels like it could be an area where we could utilize CHAPA's help.
I mean, next on the agenda is Kate and Jamie and I did talk to Lily from CHAPA and went to their, so yeah, I mean, I think there's a lot, there's a lot of things that I think we could utilize CHAPA's technical assistance for. So I think potentially, yeah, I mean, it was a pretty cool conversation. So
great.
I think there's a lot of options.
The time is really right. I think we're in a new place that, yeah. I think the level of engagement we can get and buy-in and collaboration, I think the time is now to really push the envelope that we're being presented with.
Do you think that would that be added to the proposal? So to me, I don't want to say it sweetens the pot, but just hearing you say that now, again, that might not be for the whole city council, but I love that idea. Again, towards the max, I don't know the politics of Easthampton as well as some of these folks, but the maximization of using Easthampton, Northampton, and Amherst from someone who does in fact like to maximize resources, that makes me really excited. I'm like, yeah, let's all do it together. So I don't know if that can be added in some way, just a small thing on the proposal, but I love the idea.
Absolutely. And I think it is, it's sort of a backdrop for us that it's how we're going to be successful. Post-pandemic, bridging the communication challenges that we have, but just finding the folks that we want to bring to Pioneer Valley and attract. And really, I think the challenges are there for us to communicate that across a wide spectrum of different feelings and perceptions and issues that, I think are on the table that they're right.
I think though that one thing I want to mention is I'm going to just say that sometimes we've had some pushback about affordable housing or housing projects that are drawing in people from other communities rather than focusing on Easthampton. So I think we want to think about how do we strike a balance when we talk about that. Because I'm sure that we're going to have some questions about, like, is this for Easthampton people?
Right.
And it's for folks who want to buy and live in Easthampton, yes, is the answer to that, right? But I think that we have to just think about how we talk about it.
I'll add that the last time that this went to CPA, the committee they added a condition about outreach going to surrounding communities, including Holyoke and Springfield,
Oh, they did.
explicitly for an equity issue. And that exact point that you just brought up, Jackie, was brought up. And the CPA committee was of the mind, well, there may not be residents before they buy, but once they buy, they will be residents, and then they will be paying Easthampton taxes, and they will be members of the community. So it is for members of the East, it is for future members of Easthampton, or future community members. So, and I think that in general, the council has gotten more along those lines, like the city council's gotten more along those lines, but I wouldn't expect much pushback at CPA, except to increase the outreach to people of color and Indigenous, and to try to make it more inclusive a program.
Mhm.
We had a
Good
former
figure.
Easthampton, we had a former housing partnership member, Jim Sullivan, who passed away many years ago. And that was his argument, 15 years ago. It was like, well, if they lived here, then they would be Easthampton residents. And that was often not a popular answer back then, but that was always his. So he'd be very pleased that we had come this far, because that was very much his mantra always.
But I think Jackie is wise. I mean, Jane, if you're going to be doing the presentation, I think you could just hold both of those, but you just start off with, we're going to start off marketing. I mean, the marketing is all the same. We're going to start off marketing with Easthampton.
Yeah.
And then go to the store. It's just that.
I think that's right. And I think, the other thing I'll ask, because I want to let you all move on with your agenda, is that, are there any thoughts about what would be more successful? Because there are two minds here as well about, do we want these loans to be recapturable at any future sale, or do we want to have some sort of a model that allows for folks to actually use these funds and build some equity if they stay in their home?
I will tell you, because I'm loud and obnoxious, it's pretty clear to me. I would say I want them to build equity, but I think it's a bit of a harder, I mean, that is another strength if we it's a hard group in Easthampton because if you're like in this Amherst group that just did this affordable housing thing, you'd want to lean towards past housing injustice and say, of course we want equity to be built. So I would vote for the equity, but I don't know what the most persuasive argument in terms of how to support that.
So one thing that we could think about, which we have done with the housing rehab loans that we'd done with CDBG, is if you sell your home within X number of years, then you must repay the loan as part of the sale of the house. So I don't know. I'm just throwing that out there as a thought.
Yep. So that there's inside of that time period. And
Yeah,
I think that's absolutely fair. We don't want anybody reselling a house and getting this money within 2 years. That
Right.
would not fulfill the purpose.
Well, then you're not really an Easthampton resident.
I was just gonna say, Kate, that's exactly right.
I was just gonna ask Jamie, like, is there what's the CPA? Is there a standard for CPA?
So no, because in the past where we've done this, the housing partnership and the planning department came to the CPA, asked for funds to create this thing, and then put out an RFP, got responses, and chose a contractor based off the RFP that was put out in the submission that was put into place. We're trying to sort of switch that around a little bit to make it more streamlined on the administration side from the city, is to have Valley CDC apply directly to the CPA. So it's like there's no standard because the CPA hasn't ever gotten into the nitty-gritty details like that. You know, for the first-time homebuyer program that we did last time, it was $5,000 or $6,000. It was 1/5. It was a 5-year repayment, anti-speculation recapture provision, with 1/5 of the loan being forgiven every year.
Oh, okay.
So that maybe that was explained during the CPA committee, that it was like a forgivable grant, but like with sort of a way to make sure that it wasn't just someone who was going to just use the money to flip the house and then sell it at a lot more. So I guess I would say that because we're doing it differently this time, that Valley would put together the proposal that makes the most sense to submit to CPA, but also I don't know that CPA is going to feel comfortable like with that level of detail, and they may sort of, I don't know, somehow make it that it's to be determined later. What the exact specifics of the grant program are going to be. Obviously the funding amounts have to be part of that. But I think, you know, it'd be good to have some sort of anti-speculation and recapture provisions. I don't know what's reasonable for, you know, $20,000 grant. I think I would kind of throw that back at you and say, you know, make the proposal. Is it a 10-year recapture or 15-year recapture? I know originally it was a 15-year recapture because at the time, to get items listed on the subsidized housing inventory, there had to be a 15-year affordability. And so that 15-year recapture allowed us to use housing rehab funds to list units on the SHI. Now DHCD is no longer allowing that to happen. So the 15-year is sort of, I think, arbitrary at this point.
Okay.
If 10 years made more sense, then that's fine.
Okay.
You know, especially for a $20,000 project.
So you
I
don't
think 15 years is too long. That's my personal opinion.
What's that?
I think 15 years is too long.
Yeah.
And especially if these are first-time homes and the average first-time home buyer sells their home in 5 years. you know,
I think 5 years is actually the sweet spot.
yeah. But I would encourage there to be some discussion about long-term affordability. And I know this program is not creating long-term affordability. This program is really about, I guess, economic mobility and helping people who are low and moderate income get a path to homeownership to increase their economic mobility. And so I think that is a distinction that might be helpful for the CPA to understand when they're considering, you know, is this a 5-year with repayment or a 5-year with just like a recapture if it's sold within that 5-year, or but I think putting $80,000 into this program to get it back in 10 years is not actually, and it's not like a great investment for the CPA. They can do better with their investments in that, like, just putting 80,000, like, so it's better to just like spend the money and not get it to use it as a grant, in my opinion, than trying to, like, unless the quantities were so large that we're doing this as a revolving loan where we keep doing this program with the same money over and over and over. But I don't think that we need a lot more money to make that type of program happen.
Mhm.
Or, you know, I know there's talk among city council members about starting a housing trust. So the recapture money could potentially go, you know, I don't think it's a bad idea to think about a recapture, a short-term one.
Mhm. Mhm.
Like if they sold within 5 years or something.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I want to circle back just for a second, and this isn't related necessarily to anything we're talking about, but Jim Sullivan, who Jana mentioned, who was our very long time housing partnership member, founding housing partnership member, and also was on the board of Valley CDC, and the community house at Parsons Village is named after him. Tomorrow would have been his birthday. So
Aw,
it's kind of nice that we're having this conversation today, you know.
that is very nice. And I have heard Jim's name quite a few times. So,
He's the one who started the like the idea of the pedal poker
oh,
run
the
came
pedal
from
poker.
him.
Okay, great.
Yep.
Great. Well, this is very helpful, and some of the specific things, and I think, you know, we can really use this feedback, I think, to beef up our draft. And I did see someone asking, so what would be the time frame for, or the steps that you all feel like would be most useful? So third Thursdays of the month are CPA meetings.
So Jane, you can work with me directly about the CPA piece of it, and I
Mhm.
can get you the information that you need, applications and when to submit and all that.
Great.
I think probably from the housing partnership, a letter of support would be incredibly
Yep.
helpful for your application. And if you want to run by drafts or, you know, draft programs or things like that before you submit to the CPA, then that's sort of the timing. The CPA meets and has they accept applications on a rolling basis, so there's no timeline that you have to hit other than a couple weeks before the meeting.
Yep. Okay, great, Jamie. That's wonderful. Donna and I will have some time to do that certainly over this next month, and then can bring to you, and then we'll kind of take it from there.
Before you leave, Jane, I wanted to just, and maybe I'm jumping around a bit because this is probably under other updates, but I just wanted to put out there that at the next meeting of the housing partnership, we're having the mayor and a city councilor is going to come to talk to the committee about a housing trust.
Great.
And I know you were planning to come with Laura to talk
Laura,
about
yeah.
some other stuff. So I think that's going to be a really good discussion, having the mayor and the city councilor talking about housing trust while we're talking about development opportunities that
Right.
Valley can do. So I just want to sort of put that out there as just what's going to be on the next agenda, and trying to get all the people in the room at the same time to have a good robust conversation at the next meeting.
Oh, I think that's great. And, you know, Laura and I are looking at the sites available in Easthampton, and she's been talking to Jeff. So I think we're ready to have that conversation. And if there's a feasible deal there, we're very excited about doing something in Easthampton. So I agree, Jamie, that'll be a good conversation. I'm sure Laura will talk to Jeff before then. And if we need to do anything to kind of focus that conversation and you want to do a little prep, you know, we'll reach out to you and see if there's anything you feel like we should do prior to that next meeting.
Yeah. Why don't we have a conversation, your email or in person about
Okay.
about that?
That sounds great.
Okay.
All right. Well, thank you all very much. Really appreciate you letting me sub in for Donna. And Jackie, I am aware of that. Donna told me that about you, that you used to teach the first-time homebuyer classes.
It was a very long time ago now, but it was really super fun.
Yeah, yeah.
That's when I first met Jackie.
Oh, was
Like,
it?
Well, and you taught at Hilltown, right? Hilltown CDC.
I was
Yeah.
the first-time homebuyer counselor at Hilltown CDC,
Yes.
and we always had to hire Pat Burns to teach our classes, or because she scares me. I love Pat.
I do
But yes.
too. And it's so great. Like, I'm just feeling like I'm finally kind of getting settled in, and your names and faces are getting familiar. And really just, it's great to hear stories like about that history and the connections. There's just so many connections y'all have out here. It's
The
great
housing
to be a part
world.
of the community and this industry out here. So
Yeah, it's a
Yes.
tiny little housing world, that's for sure.
yes.
For
Yeah.
better and worse.
Yeah, exactly. But I'm hopeful about this, and I feel like it's the right thing for Easthampton right now, and really look forward to Valley really deepening our relationship with y'all and seeing what we can do together.
Someday we'll get to see you in person. We'll all be
exciting.
I mean, I don't know. Maybe housing partnership will never meet in person again. I don't know, but like, be nice to all be in the room together again someday.
I hope so. I hope so.
Okay.
Well, I appreciate all that you all do. Thank you very much.
Thanks, Jane. Thanks for coming.
Yeah. Have a great evening.
You too.
You too. So Jackie, real quick, did I run into you in a grocery store about 2 weeks ago? Because it occurred to me, I was like, I think that's Jackie, but obviously the only time I've ever seen you is your head
Yeah.
without a mask.
Yeah.
And it was in public, the whole body with no head. So I couldn't really tell. So if it was me, I apologize for not saying hello.
You know, I can't recognize anybody outside of anything anymore, so I don't recall that. So you're
Okay.
good.
Brad, there's someone I work with that has one arm. And these days, I barely, with the mask, I cannot, I don't recognize anyone. So I'm just saying, like.
No, it's so weird. Like, I think I know that person. Do I know that person? I can't
Yeah,
tell.
it was like, I stared at him for like a good 5 minutes. And then I was like, oh yeah, of course I know him, but it was just weird.
Okay. Well, that was exciting. I think it's exciting. So the next thing on our agenda is Kate and Jamie and I went to the Chapa open office hours last week and met with Lily Link, like peppy name, to learn about the municipal engagement program, which I thought was super exciting. But I don't need to be the one who gives the update. So if Kate, you want to do it.
you go for it. You'll probably be more concise. All I'll say is fabulous. Of course, we're going to apply. Like it was fabulous.
It was fabulous. So, I mean, I think the things that were super interesting to me is that there's multiple tiers of engagement. So there's like what they have is this 18-month, like kind of like intensive technical assistance, what she calls the full partnership kind of thing, which we would apply for, which they are not accepting applications now, but sounded like maybe like later this year into early 2022. Oh, Jackie changed her background. That they would be looking for new communities. They are doing, they've worked with about 12 cities and towns, many Eastern Mass communities. So like Brookline and like Arlington and like, you know, really sort of Boston centric. They are doing something in Franklin County right now, a regional partnership with Greenfield, Montague, Shelburne, Buckland, and Irving, which is kind of interesting. And then something on the Cape, a regional thing. But otherwise it does, I mean, I think that Easthampton would be a super interesting community for them because we are a city and we're in Western Mass, but we're not Springfield or Chicopee or Holyoke. And we're not Northampton. So I feel like people don't really know who, you know, like we're like, you know, kind of undiscovered, I think, in terms of, you know, activities. And then they also have like what she called like MEI Light, which is like sort of shorter term technical assistance, like 3 to 6 months, like we want to do this thing and we need help with this thing. So so basically there's lots of other ways we can be involved. She sent us an email after the meeting. They have like monthly like housing 101 seminars. They could come out and do like an educational piece just for the city. Like there's lots of different things that they could do for us, which you know, they have a monthly making the case calls. So like just, you know, people get together and talk about like how to make the case for why affordable housing is needed. Immediately, Jackie, I thought about like, why is affordable housing so expensive to build? And like those torturous conversations that we have about it. Like I think like, I admit I don't do a good job explaining. And I think we could really use some good like sound bites of like, why is it so expensive? Partly it's because we sit through 18 months of public hearings and you torture our attorneys, but like people don't understand that, right? So I think that there's a lot of opportunity. I think they seemed pretty interested in working with us. I think, you know, Kate brought up the housing trust issue. Like, if we wanted to do a housing trust, is this something that you could help us with? The answer is yes. If we wanted to build a coalition of, you know, affordable housing advocates in the city, is this something you could help us with? Yes. So they seem really interested. You know, it came at what I thought, I didn't realize this, but there was I don't know, a couple of years ago, there was a study by a BU professor about, which Chapa did a forum on, about who shows up in opposition of development, affordable housing development, private house, like any development, like who are the people that show up? And this BU professor did this like whole, like, I don't know, combed through like gazillions of meeting minutes. And basically it's older white male homeowners. That's who shows up. And they show up to every meeting and kind of, and generally oppose everything. And so for those of us who work in this industry, like that is exactly who you think shows up. And like, this was the study that was like, this is who shows up. So it was like fascinating. But it really goes to show that like a few people who oppose everything really make a huge difference. And so like that apparently was why Chapa decided to like embark on this project. And because, you know, there's a lot that can be done to combat that type of, those few people who don't like anything, and how to build a coalition of people who, you know, do want to support things. So I'll stop talking, but it was really exciting. And I think there's a lot of opportunity for us.
Yeah, the way that I echo everything Jana said, I mean, one of the thoughts that I had, like, again, their big program, I think would be, you know, Ashley, who was like with me, you know, was like, let's go big and do all these things. As I was sitting there, I don't really think we could do anything big without going through this 18-month program. So I think, you know, I think it would be fabulous for us to apply, because I think it would create more of an infrastructure. And Brad, I don't think you were here when John Hornick came out to kind of talk about what Amherst has. But like basically what they do is they have like, I can't remember how many people they said, like 100 people kind of like, but they're bigger, like on standby. So like to kind of combat the NIMBYs. Because, you know, one of the things that Jana brought up is like, we're only like 6, 7 people like at best, right? And that's not enough to hold any big. And like, you know, Jana's going to the CPA yesterday. I'm like, oh, I got to put my kid to sleep. So I think to do anything big, I guess one of my big thoughts from one of the takeouts is like, we need more people, right? Like we need more, and you know, there can be different gradations, and they would help us with that. They would help us like, you know, with the storytelling, with the narration. And so that was really one of my takeaways. Like they have all these like kind of piecemeal things, which are fabulous. Like one of the things we talked about is like, Brad, I think you're pretty good with like the alphabet soup, but as we get like maybe Ken would like this 101, it would be fabulous. Like I would have loved this like a couple of years ago, like when everyone's talking alphabet soup. But I think we could use some of their piecemeal stuff. But really, realistically speaking, I think one of our goals, and I see totally why Judy was pushing us, is like it would be really helpful for us if we want to do anything big, because and they're you know, like they'll help us. They'll yeah. And they also have, and I have a love for their person that they have on not retainer, but Tiffany, Dr. Tiffany Manuel. It's just like my housing crush. And she's the shit. So yeah, I mean, that was, I totally echo what Jana was saying, but I think the piecemeal stuff is great, but I think we should really like try to do this 18-month program, because I think it would really change us and Easthampton. Like, I think it would just, yeah.
And so how does that, like, is that us as in the partnership or the city of Easthampton? Like who are the people that would be engaging in this? Like, did they say, or are there any specific requirements? Or
I think they want city engagement. So I think, you know, probably the application would come from the planning department in conjunction with the housing partnership. They don't want to work in a community where like just the 6 of us want to do this and nobody else wants to.
okay.
Because she said that like they've been unsuccessful where like some cities or towns say they want to do it, and then like, you know, their town council or their, you know, nobody's interested. And so I think we are in an excellent position, right? Because people are interested, the mayor's interested, the city council's interested, CPA committee. So I think that's a good question, Brad. It sounded to me like the application could maybe come from the city. The housing partnership might be like the group that they're working with, but they definitely want other groups, you know, and they would help us identify like who are the other people that we should be pulling in that we're not, really, I mean, I'm a former CHAPA employee, so I have nothing but like love for the organization, but they do an excellent job of technical support. Like it is one of their strengths in terms of, you know, technical assistance and like bringing in experts and knowing who to, you know, so I do think that it would be a huge, I think like to Kate's point, like it would be a huge benefit to the city.
Yeah.
No, and it was like they were talking about like how to identify like again, it's very catered. It's like how to identify the power in our city, right? Like she wasn't saying, oh, we should team up with churches, but like, you know, like those like really open-ended and it catered to us. I was like, I mean, so the only thing that kind of was left a little remaining, and I don't know, Jana, she was just going to follow up on more of like next steps, like when are they accepting applications? I think she had talked about, I think she was pretty clear, but she was going to check on like, does it make our application stronger to partner? But I think she was pretty clear we don't have to. So did she follow up on like next steps for the applications? No, okay.
Just like the email that she sent about like, there's monthly calls on making the case, a monthly affordable housing one-on-ones, something about fair housing, and then there's a Google group that we could stay up to date on what they're doing. And And she was gonna check with Dana and Whitney, her other two coworkers, about like basically like tell them what we talked about and see what
Right.
they thought about.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean, I think we don't need we don't need a regional partnership. I mean, I just feel like
I would prefer not, but like I just wanted
Yeah.
to see. I mean, she was pretty
Yeah.
clear that we would get it based on ourselves. But that was just my one outstanding question. I was hoping she was gonna send a follow-up email, which I'm happy to do, prompting her to be like, how do we? I mean, but I think we have to decide within this group first,
Right.
and then like, how would we proceed? Like, what are the deadlines? What's the application? How do we do this?
But there's time, right? What did you say? It was like 2022 is when it opens up again?
Yeah, she said late 2021. They have a few that they have a couple of regional ones, and then she said I think they're working in like Foxborough and like they have a capacity issue, so they can't keep adding new communities. And I think so. Jamie mentioned that next meeting, Councillor Peak and the mayor are coming to talk to us about affordable housing trusts, and so I think I think they're going to ask that the housing partnership consider do some research on housing trusts to report back to the city council of like what we think is feasible. So I think it's possible that we could roll that into like technical, like we would need technical support to do that, I think, for sure. And so roll that into maybe what we would talk to CHAPA about is whether or not that, if the city council was willing to wait, I mean because that would be a longer term. If we were waiting for the TA, we might need more, have to wait till we can apply.
I guess my take on it was that the municipal engagement initiative was like really good for something that we just didn't have any ideas about or needed support for or wanted to like encourage, that we just like needed a lot more for. So I think the housing trust, because it has the support of the mayor and seemingly city council, I guess I don't see that there's like a huge need to like involve CHAPA to help create it as part of the municipal engagement initiative, because we don't need to like do all of the work to like show them that it's a good idea.
True.
But it might be helpful for like what they call the municipal engagement light, the and I, whereas I think like trying to do the single family rezoning would be something that would be appropriate for a municipal engagement initiative. Like that's the type of thing where we really have to make the case, and like and we're going to see a lot of opposition, and it's unclear who, if anyone supports it other than
Us.
Yeah.
Well, but I still think, I mean, I'm not super for, I don't totally oppose the trust, but I just, again, feel like it wouldn't benefit the cost benefit. But even if we did want to do it, I still say use CHAPA, right? Like have them not the full thing, but like have them hold our hand, right? And like I agree with you totally, Jamie, what you're saying, but I'm also like, why wouldn't we use, you know what I mean? Because it's, unless you've got John Hornick, Brad, just so you know, like John is Jana in Amherst and he's retired. And
he is like Jana, like 4.0. He's retired. He
Jana,
does this like 30 hours a week.
Full time. Yeah, he does this like full time. So John Hornick is like the only person who could develop a trust without like, but other than that, like we would still need like, I don't want to read all these things. Just CHAPA, tell me what to do.
Like,
yeah.
Well, and MHP does some technical assistance. I think
they have that whole thing. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, we'll see what they say next month, but I do think that like we need to figure out like if we had one, what would it look like? What would it do? How would it be different from what we do? That all stuff is like kind of, we need help figuring that out, because otherwise it's like us just like deciding, and I think that's dangerous.
Right.
So
Does everyone have, I don't know, more than basic familiarity with housing trusts? Like, I have some resource, I've been to some webinars and things like that over the past few years, and I can send to the partnership after the meeting. I can send just some information about it, if that would be helpful. People want to review it before the next meeting.
I would say, Jamie, why not do it? And I mean, why not? It's always better to be redundant than remiss, particularly if it's popping up again as a thing.
Mhm.
Yeah, I was gonna try to like find my notes from when we met with John. Yes, Jackie's that's the guidebook from MHP, which is really helpful.
Great, I don't have to even send it now.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Oh, did you just send something?
In the chat. Yeah.
It's in the,
I
it's in the
dropped
chat. You can
Yeah,
go
I
there and
dropped it in the
download it.
chat.
But yeah, I think, I think before next week's meeting, I mean, I don't, my exchange with Counselor Peak was basically like, they want to come and like talk about it. We don't have to be like deciding anything next week, but I think if people have a chance to like brush up on what a trust is and what a trust does, and I was going to try to find my notes from when we did meet with John to talk about the Amherst one, just to like remember, like, and it does seem like it's a little okay. And Jackie's going to talk to Tom. I think there are some like choices. What Amherst set up is not necessarily exactly what Easthampton would look like, but there are some very specific regulations of like how a trust works that we are pretty, I think, required. So we would want to.
If anybody's interested, I think it might have been last night or maybe 2 nights ago. So I'm doing this like housing webinar series for my internship, and it's specifically about the community or the Champlain Land Trust up in Burlington, Vermont. And so the director of that program gave a presentation for like I think it's called Greening Greenfield or Greening Up Greenfield.
Oh yeah.
And so I mean, a lot of really great stuff. And I know that it was recorded, so if you're all interested, I can email the link to the recording once it goes live, and then you can just take a peek at it. But it basically covers everything about what a housing trust is supposed to look like, and the history behind how they got to where they're at. So, and it's a very successful housing trust.
Great. Thanks, Brad. So yeah, I mean, I guess Kate, if you want to like nudge Lily about like maybe what are the next steps, I'm happy to have you do that, because I think that we would just want to, I think we would want to take the time between now and whenever the application is going to be available to like really figure out like what are the things that we want help with. Like, is it eliminating is it having to do with zoning, or does it have to do with coalition, building coalition, or like, is it both, or whatever it is? I mean, I think, but it would be helpful to know from them, like, and I do think if we can tap into some of these other things that they have going on, so they like know who we are, that would also be helpful. I'll forward you the email that she sent about like Affordable Housing 101, which is every month, Making the Case, which is every month during the workday. The Affordable Housing 101's at night. But
yeah, I'm happy to. And then does it make sense that like we'll get a little more information, and then I mean, I think we should. Right now, are we the only voting? Ken is officially. Who are we missing that's voters? Connie and Ken?
Kathy and Ken.
Is Connie?
Did Connie officially resign?
So
I can ask
Connie
her.
apparently like appointment like expired.
Lapsed.
And
Yeah.
then, which we didn't know, and I'm not sure Connie knew. And so then she would have needed to like reapply, and I haven't heard from her in a long time. So I thought maybe she was taking a break. And I know Ashley was planning to apply. And and the appointments, the city seems really hot to trot to like fill some of these vacancies. I am still confused because I didn't think we had a number anymore. I thought we got rid of that, but I'm not sure that that's true because they all think that we have vacancies. And
Yeah, I think it's
I thought-
9 for some reason.
yeah, but like, I thought, obviously I'm wrong, but like several years ago, Mayor Cadger had suggested that we eliminate that number because we never had 9 and we were always stressed out about it. And so I thought we'd eliminated the number so
We
that we could
did.
just be ourselves, and whether we had 4 members or 12 members, we were happy. But
Yeah.
the city clerk's office really thinks we have 9 because they keep saying we have vacancies.
So something just got missed in the translation of that change, because we absolutely did make that decision that we were going to not specify a number, because it was okay to do that, because we're not like the planning planning board or the ZBA that has specific numbers that they have to have. So we should be okay to do that.
So in terms of, the reason why I was asking is, I think it might make the most sense. I'll get that information, and then perhaps what we can do is, I mean, this is boring, but do you guys feel like, I feel like we still didn't decide on our priorities from the housing production plan. So maybe we
Did you not read my minutes? We definitely said, these are the
Oh.
things we're interested in. We're tabling these 2.
Okay, well, maybe.
Sorry, I'm just being
vaguely.
fresh. I'm not really scolding
You voted to
For the-
approve them,
for the
Kate. Are you
record.
saying you didn't?
Look, so, but maybe we could
Do
look
you
at
have
those very,
Do you have an infant child at home? Come on.
maybe we could look at these very, these minutes that I really looked at so closely.
It's so dark in here.
And then like go back at the 2 tabled or whatever.
Yeah, I think I would suggest maybe we do that in June, right? So like May's meeting is going to be packed, and then we'll have maybe got some more information from Chapa. We'll have had the housing trust conversation. We'll have had this great conversation about potential sites with Laura and Jane, and so maybe June is when we're like, here's what we're doing.
I love it.
Towards the CPA question, the CPA meeting, do you guys, because I am going to leave at 7:30, do you feel like, should
I
we
am
all
too
be
because I'm
there?
on vacation. I'm sorry, what?
Wow, double kudos for coming. Do you guys, what do you think? Like, is it one of those meetings that it would be helpful to have everybody there for?
Well, we have to find out when they're actually applying first.
I will keep everyone in the loop
No.
because I am the administrative person for the CPA, so I will when Valley submits their application, I will forward it to you all and let you know what date that will be.
I'm
Mhm.
sorry, I think I was unclear. There's 2 things going on, right? One is the Valley, the home ownership thing, and then the other one that you guys were talking about, Jamie, you were like the jam-packed meeting where we're talking about, I thought that was a CPA as well, where you're talking about.
That's housing partnership. That's next month's housing partnership.
Oh, sorry. I wasn't, I mean, again, I was sitting right here. It wasn't like I was skipping over. I just,
It's
Sorry.
okay.
Yes, that's our next meeting in May. Okay. And I think, I don't know, was everybody on last night? The city council did approve the changes to the emergency rental assistance program. So
Good.
there's changes to the guidelines, which will make it easier for people to apply. And so those will be retroactive and happening very soon. I don't know, Jamie, you and I can talk next week about whether or not we need something signed or not. But
Yeah, we probably should do a formal amendment to the contract because that's what the council authorized, and it was a formal guidelines that were attached to the contract. So probably just like attach that letter from the mayor and put a little thing together to say that it's signed and agreed to, and then be done with it. So we can talk next week.
Okay. Does anybody
Cool.
have anything else? Okay.
No.
All right, it is
I don't think so.
7:26 p.m. Do we have to
I will
make
make a motion to adjourn. I think Kate's seconding.
I was trying to do that before thing. I second that motion.
Okay, Jackie, to do the roll call.
Yes. Ready
Brad.
to go.
Yes.
Kate,
Hell yes.
and I'm Jana, and I'm saying yes. Okay, great. Thanks, everybody.
Peace.
Nice to
Have
see
a good
you
night.
all.
Bye.
Bye.